When we look back at the downfall of Star Wars, I think we can all agree it begins with one single moment. It's the time George Lucas signed away all of his property to the mouse of the house. And back then, I think we all were kind of curious and kind of excited to see what Disney would do with these properties, with these characters, with this universe. I mean, let alone, they were the epitome of storytelling and filmmaking. But oh boy, was I and so many others disappointed. I mean, sure, you have some good projects thrown in there, like Clone Wars, the 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. Hell, you even got Rogue One, which was decent. But other than those few projects, everything else was kind of, well, shitty. And let's not forget here, folks, they made a whole sequel trilogy. They made prequel movies. They made Disney Plus shows. And most of them, if not all of them, were garbage. And let's not forget to mention, they canned one of the most badass characters of all just because the actress had thoughts and opinions on social media. Let me scratch that. Had the wrong thoughts and opinions on social media. I mean, everything went downhill. From the subpar writing and story building, to destroying George Lucas's original lore, to the editing. Yeah, this scene right here opened a lot of eyes to a lot of people. Now, whether it was Book of Boba Fett and that terrible chase scene, or if it was Mandalorian Season 3 introducing us to Queen Lizzo, or even if it was Obi-Wan Kenobi, they were all projects that took the name of Star Wars and just kicked it down the hill. But there was one show who took it an extra step. They took the name of Star Wars, put a burlap sack over its head, took it out to its grave, which they already buried, and buried it alive. And that show, of course, is called The Acolyte. I think everyone agrees. Well, I'll take that back. Most people agree that this show sucks. And it's #NotMyStarWars. But nonetheless, I have 3 points of interest I want to bring up about this show and why it failed so badly and how it degrades the legacy of George Lucas. Part 1. The marketing. The Acolyte was first announced to be in development in 2020. Remember 2020, guys? Wearing masks, playing Animal Crossing, watching The Lion King.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
They also announced that this show would be showrun by the one Leslie Headland.
Who?
Exactly, Snoop Dogg. Who is this Leslie Headland woman? Well, I think it's important to note that she was a former personal assistant to the one and only Harvey Weinstein. Just keep that in mind. And of course, we can all speculate that she was given this show by Kathleen Kennedy because the Force is now female. It's female now, guys, come on. So this show was set into production and it quickly faded away. It almost became a myth, really, because, well, for me, I thought it was canceled like 15 times. But after they broadcast 2 men just making out on New Year's Eve, we got news that The Acolyte will be released this summer in the year of our Lord, 2024. And that, folks, began the Acolyte marketing push, beginning in Star Wars Celebration.
She's a powerful leader. Yes, yes.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
I would love to make something like this that is, for lack of a better term, Disney, meaning it's something that like my parents would have allowed me to see when I was younger as a queer person.
Is someone gonna start talking about Star Wars here?
Best parts about Star Wars is there is no good or evil. Depends on what side you're standing on, truly. You know what I mean?
Right.
So after all those clips went viral on right-wing Twitter, the show was set to release, which means it's time for more interviews.
Well, Anakin just killed a whole Death Star. How many people died on that?
Well, Vernestra comes with a purple lightsaber, and, they don't actually mean anything.
Are you excited about that? Are you
Nothing
bracing yourself?
Star Wars. Nothing.
This show was set to be just another Disney Plus Star Wars show that will just fade away and everyone will forget about. But folks, it gets worse. It gets a lot worse. Part 2, the actual show. All eyes were set on the first 2 episode premiere of The Acolyte, and everyone was waiting for just, another Star Wars show that will be okay. But then the early reviews came in. Then we got plots to the first 4 episodes of the show.
things will get worse when you get to episode 3, so prepare yourself. It will be the last Jedi of Star Wars Disney Plus series.
And I think it's right then and there we all knew that this show was about to have an extra chromosome. It was going to be something special. The first 2 episodes showed us a lot. In the beginning, they showed us that this show was going to be terribly written and there was going to be awful dialogue and awful acting in it. The terrible acting really only comes from these 2 actresses. Sorry, one's they, them, so that would be person. Anyways, they suck at acting, and I think they were handpicked for these roles. After those first 2 episodes, things really started heating up because we were told episode 3 was literally going to burn the name Star Wars and destroy everything George Lucas created. And it did. It was the worst thing I ever watched. There is just a plethora of things I can say about this episode.
Power of one, the power of 2, the power of many.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
First, the kid actors. They're also terrible. Why did we pick them?
Oh, you just hate them because you're racist and sexist.
No, I hate them because every time they're on screen, I cringe and wish it to be over.
Mama's dead. What have you done? What have you done? What have you done?
Second, the whole plot that these kids are made from the Force is lazy writing. You're basically just copy and pasting George Lucas's original thought and idea, which he copied and pasted from a book called The Bible. It's a thing we've seen for many, many years, and we've already seen it in this universe, so it makes Anakin's birth less special and less meaningful. And it's really surprising that we've come this far, especially from Disney, because they used to be the pinnacle of storytelling and filmmaking. And I think it's very clear that they have put that in the back and push something up forward that's more important and should be discussed more in films. And I think we all know what it is, but I'm not gonna say it. And the last thing I want to discuss about the 3rd episode is, isn't it funny how a society of women comes crumbling down? No, I'm kidding, guys. I'm obviously kidding here. One of the best things George Lucas did, even in the prequels, was his world building. And I feel like there's a lack of world building, not only in this series, but in this episode. Feels like we were just told through dialogue and exposition that these are a covenant of women who were exiled. Okay. I know it's really hard in a TV or a film to show and not tell the audience, but that's why creative writers get paid the big bucks. And they heavily rely on dialogue and exposition in this show to tell you how characters are feeling, to put forward a new plot line, and it's just terrible. It really feels like they are writing for a bunch of 4-year-olds because they think that's who their audience is. Then again, maybe that's how they think their audience is. That's how they think Star Wars fans are, just a bunch of dumb 4-year-olds. More on that later. Then after episode 3, we are then met with another boring, dialogue-filled episode. And then after that, we actually get a decent one. In this episode, we get to see a Sith fighting a bunch of Jedi, and we finally get the big baddie reveal. And it's exactly who everyone predicted it would be. So, really no surprise there. Now, I will give them props in this episode because they do kill a bunch of characters that have names, and we've followed throughout this show so far. But my only problem with that is, I don't care about these characters. I never once cared for them, nor will I ever care for them. So their deaths are meaningless, and I actually caught myself cheering on their deaths because I wanted something cool to happen. Another great thing about this episode is that there is little to no dialogue, which is fantastic. Now, they don't avoid it out entirely, but when they don't talk, it's probably the best thing ever. But as soon as they start opening their mouths, it becomes a shit show again. And like I said, the dialogue is a major issue in this show. So what does the next episode rely on? More dialogue.
What did he say?
There were casualties.
Who?
The connection was faulty, but it sounded like the entire team.
Boring.
Then all of a sudden, they just have another episode 3, except it's from the Jedi's perspective. Why? God, please take me. I am done on this hell. Take me away, please. But then we finally get to the last episode in the season, and hopefully in the series. All the awful writing and terrible dialogue and terrible story building come to a conclusion in this one final episode. And you guessed it, it's a big mess. I mean, what did you expect? You expect these writers to somehow get their shit together for the final episode after all that terrible writing they did in the past 7 episodes? No, of course not. This was gonna be a huge mess. There's really no answers to any of our questions, and they do really dumb shit with the character. Osha, who is pretty much a good guy throughout this whole series, just turns to the dark side, to the sexy dark side. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, the dark side in the show is sexy now, which is kind of creepy. But I guess, write what you know. Right, Leslie? Right? You know a thing or two about a powerful man seducing young women, right? Anyways, Osha turns to the dark side, and spoiler alert, she kills her former master, Soul, with the first Force choke. That's right, girls. We do things first. So you're telling me the first Force choke was a non-binary female character choking a Asian character? What happened to stop Asian hate, guys? But it doesn't stop there, folks, because who do the Jedi blame all this death and destruction on? That's right, Soul, the guy from Squid Games who just died 2 minutes ago.
A rogue Jedi named Soul killed his accomplices to maintain the cover story. It was the work of one flawed man.
Wow, what an ending to the show. Turns out it was the fault of one evil man, Soul. Oh, also, how can I forget the cameos in this show? We first see Keanu Mundi in episode 4, you know, the guy who says this.
Impossible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
Yeah, so I guess he knows about the Sith, but, you know, he's just keeping it a secret when Phantom Menace happens. And remember when Palpatine was describing this story to Anakin?
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Yeah, turns out he's just some creepy horny man in the cave, hiding away. And of course, how can I forget to mention the one character who is actually supposed to be alive according to the lore? That, of course, is Master Yoda. He also gets told by the Jedi about these twins, and he probably figures they're the Sith, so he's another one keeping it a secret from the Jedi Council in Phantom Menace. Great stuff, guys. Great stuff. And you know, a lot of people had critiques on the show, whether they were uploading videos weekly or doing live streams. And I really hope the showrunners see those critiques and take them to heart. Part 3, the fans suck, according to the showrunners. I mean, come on. It's a given at this point. Are you not surprised? This is quickly becoming the tale as old as time. Disney puts out something terrible or mediocre, fans critique it, and then Disney and those showrunners clap back by calling them racist, bigots, and sexist. Who knew that all it takes to join the KKK is just to put out a simple critique on the Disney Plus show? But something very different happened during the Acolyte. You see, when going through the routine of calling all the fans sexist, bigots, and racist, something spectacular showed up. You see, instead of putting creativity into making a good, decent show, they put creativity into dissing the fans. That's right. They made a Jake Paul-inspired diss track. Yeah, this is real. You can go on her Instagram right now and see this. It's not fake. She posted this in a non-ironic type of way. It was a serious post. It would be one thing if this was released and she was defending a good or mediocre show. Then I would say there's justification behind that. But actually, there's probably no justification behind releasing a diss track. But you get what I'm saying. But in reality, she's defending a shitty show that attacks the lore, attacks the true fans, and it just makes everything even more hilarious. Truly, Inspiring words right there. In conclusion, the Acolyte show was something more than a mess. It can be compared to the now streets of San Francisco. There's insane people walking around and they're just shitting all over the place. I hope this is a big wake-up call for Kathleen Kennedy and her big executives, and I hope they stop producing garbage stuff. But I don't think that's gonna happen because we all know what she wants.
Put a chick in it, make her gay!
I guess I'll just keep rewatching the prequels until something good comes out. That's gonna do it for me, guys. If you enjoyed this video, I really appreciate it if you give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.